Imagine waking up tomorrow and hearing that America wants to build the Statue of Liberty again. Same height, same copper skin, same enormous pedestal, same impossible-looking figure standing over New York Harbor. The question wouldn't be whether America could build it. Of course it could. The real question would be, how much would it cost? When the Statue of Liberty was completed in 1886, nobody was thinking about billion-dollar construction budgets. They were thinking about copper sheets, iron, stone, ships, workers, and whether they could raise enough money to finish the project. Today, the National Park Service estimates that the original statue and pedestal together may have cost between $300,000 and $600,000 at the time. Adjusted into today's dollars, that's roughly $17 million to $22 million. That sounds surprisingly cheap, but there's a problem. That number is not the same thing as asking what it would cost to actually rebuild Lady Liberty in 2026. Because if you tried to build her today, you wouldn't simply buy the same materials and hire a few workers. You'd be rebuilding one of the most complicated monuments ever created, and the bill could become enormous. To understand why, imagine a family sitting around the dinner table. The grandfather looks at a picture of the Statue of Liberty and says, "They built that more than 100 years ago. How expensive could it really be?" His grandson opens a calculator, and that's when the number starts getting uncomfortable. The statue itself is 305 feet and 1 inch tall, from the ground to the tip of the torch. The copper skin is only about 3/32 of an inch thick, but there are roughly 176,000 pounds of copper in the statue. And beneath that thin copper skin is a massive structural system designed to allow the statue to move with wind and temperature changes. This wasn't just a giant sculpture, it was an engineering problem, and that's where the price starts changing. Because in 1880, Gustav Eiffel and his team had to figure out how to make a gigantic human-shaped structure survive the wind in New York Harbor. Today, engineers would have to solve the same fundamental problem. But under modern building codes, safety requirements, environmental regulations, transportation rules, construction standards, and project management costs. So the question becomes much bigger than how much copper would we need. It's how much would it cost to recreate everything? And that's where this story gets interesting. Now imagine the grandfather asking another question. What if we just built the statue itself? That sounds reasonable, but even that isn't simple. The original Statue of Liberty wasn't manufactured in one giant factory. It was developed and assembled through a process that involved sculpting, forming copper sheets, constructing an internal framework, transporting enormous pieces across the Atlantic, and finally assembling the monument in New York. The statue arrived in New York in 1885 in 214 specially built wooden cases. Then came another challenge, the pedestal. And this is where the modern price would start moving dramatically, because the pedestal isn't a small platform underneath the statue. The National Park Service lists the concrete foundation at roughly 54 million pounds. Think about that for a second. 54 million pounds of foundation. So if your uncle looked at the Statue of Liberty and said, "Just make the statue, we'll figure out the base later," that's exactly the kind of decision that could destroy a modern construction budget. The foundation has to carry an enormous structure. The pedestal has to survive decades of weather. And the entire project would have to be engineered for one of the most recognizable locations in America. Now add modern logistics, you need specialized engineers. Structural engineers, architects, metalworkers, fabricators, crane operators, marine transportation, construction crews, safety teams, environmental studies, permits, insurance, security, and years of project management. Suddenly, you're not buying a statue, you're running a massive infrastructure project. And here's the part most people miss. Labor may be one of the biggest differences between 1886 and today. Back then, the crews were working with very different wages, regulations, equipment, and safety standards. Today, the people building something this complicated would need highly specialized skills, and specialized labor isn't cheap. Then there's the copper. The statue's copper skin is remarkably thin. But recreating those enormous curved sheets today would require custom fabrication. Each section would have to fit, the framework would have to support it, and the exterior would have to reproduce the appearance of the original monument. You couldn't just order one Statue of Liberty from a supplier. You'd basically be creating a custom industrial manufacturing operation. And then there's another problem. The original statue was built in the 19th century. If you tried to recreate it today, people would expect it to last for generations. That means engineers wouldn't only ask, "Can we build it?" They'd ask, "How do we make sure it survives?" And that changes everything, because now you're paying not only for construction, but for durability. And that's when the estimate starts moving from millions toward hundreds of millions. So let's return to the original question. What would it cost to build the Statue of Liberty today? There is no official government estimate for rebuilding the entire monument from scratch in 2026, and that's important. Anyone giving you one exact number is probably pretending that a complicated construction project can be reduced to a calculator. It can't, but we can understand the scale. The original statue and pedestal are estimated by the National Park Service to equal roughly $17 million to $22 million in today's money, when simply adjusted for inflation. But rebuilding the actual monument today would involve far more than inflation. You'd be paying modern American labor, modern engineering, modern construction equipment, modern safety requirements, modern transportation, modern environmental and permitting requirements, custom fabrication, a huge foundation, a giant pedestal, and a project that would have to be built in New York Harbor. So a reasonable modern reconstruction could potentially reach into the hundreds of millions of dollars, depending on exactly what is included. And if you added a completely new site, modern visitor facilities, transportation infrastructure, security, museums, utilities, landscaping, and other surrounding infrastructure, the total could climb dramatically higher. But here's the part that makes this story fascinating. The Statue of Liberty wasn't just expensive because of its materials. It was expensive because somebody had to believe it was worth building. Imagine your grandfather in 1886. He looks at the finished statue. He doesn't see an investment portfolio. He doesn't see a spreadsheet. He sees an idea, freedom, opportunity, a country welcoming people arriving in New York Harbor. And that may be why the real cost of the Statue of Liberty has never been just financial. The statue was a gift from France. The pedestal was funded by Americans. And when money for the pedestal became difficult to raise, public fundraising became a crucial part of completing it. So imagine your father looking at today's version. If someone told him it might cost hundreds of millions of dollars, he might ask, why would anyone spend that much money on a statue? And that's the same question every generation eventually asks about massive monuments until they become part of history. Today, millions of people know exactly what the Statue of Liberty represents. But in 1886, it was a brand new project. People had to believe in something they had never seen completed. And maybe that's the biggest financial lesson hidden inside this enormous statue. When we look at a finished monument, we see the final price. We don't see the uncertainty. We don't see the fundraising. We don't see the engineering problems. We don't see the workers. We don't see the failed plans. We don't see the years of decisions that made the final structure possible. That's true in personal finance too. Your retirement account, your home, your business, your financial freedom. When people see the finished result, it can look obvious, but the real cost was paid through thousands of smaller decisions. And that's why the Statue of Liberty is more than a giant copper monument. It's a reminder that some of the most valuable things people build start long before anyone knows what they'll eventually be worth. So if America decided to build Lady Liberty from scratch today, the answer probably wouldn't be $20 million. It could be hundreds of millions, once you account for the actual complexity of recreating the monument in the modern world. But perhaps the more interesting question isn't what the statue would cost. It's this: would anyone today be willing to pay the price for something that might still be standing 100 years from now? Because that is the difference between buying something and building something that lasts. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to MSBT Finance for more stories about money, history, and the financial decisions that shape America.